Welcome to You Are Not Alone. I am Spiritual Medium Erika Gabriel. This show is intended to bring expansion, understanding, and growth on our spiritual paths and journeys. This is a safe place to explore all things spiritual and beyond. Please remember, I am not a licensed therapist or medical doctor. Seek immediate professional help if you need mental health or physical health support. How are you guys? I'm so happy you're here. I have a guest today. I've loved connecting with guests, and I've loved the solo episodes and kind of listened to what you guys wanted me to talk about, and I've been able to do those in the solo episodes. So over the years, it always surprises me, like when I, do a talk or I do a podcast, like it being on someone else's podcast or do a Q&A or a live session. It surprises me how much people want to know about my life. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, you want to know about my life? I thought we were talking about God. You know what I mean? Or like spirituality or ghosts or whatever. And all of that is such a dynamic conversation as well. But what's been really interesting is hearing that people want to know how I came to do this work, what other people in my life think about this work, what it's like to be a mom. And it used to surprise me so much. And now I realize it's like connecting with other people's stories are so important to our own story because we see, we can see our own reflection. Or maybe we connect with something they said and we're like, oh, wow, that happened to me too. I thought I was weird. Or, oh, I totally get that. Maybe I can bring that up to the person I'm with, or maybe I can talk to my parents like that. Or, oh, I was the same way when I was a kid and then it turned into art or whatever. There's something that connects us in hearing other people's experiences and stories. And that's been a through line, obviously, through the whole podcast, right? And like interviewing different people and connecting with different people that have had spiritual awakenings and come to do light work and all the different things. So it's been interesting to see how people want to know about my past unfold, right? And it always cracks people up. I'm always like, well, I was a cocktail waitress on Sunset Boulevard in Los Angeles. And they're like, wait, what? What? I'm like, yes, I'm like, went on a spiritual path and journey and still was doing America and living on the earth element, So that always surprises people too. But one of the top questions I get in this conversation is your husband also a medium? Is your husband also spiritual? What did your husband think when you were a medium? Because I embraced my mediumship 10 days after we got married. So like, he knew that I was on a spiritual path, obviously, right? But really came out as a medium about 10 days after we got married. So people ask so much about my relationship. If my husband is like, always listening to me because I'm tuned into spirit. Like if everything I say is law, which obviously not. And just all these questions about my relationship. And I definitely felt like this was the hardest guest to book. The hardest guest, I'm laughing, the hardest guest to get to commit to coming on the show. And I will tell you this, I don't only want to have him on the show because he's an amazing actor. Go watch Mayor of Easttown on HBO. You'll see for yourself. He's been an actor for years and years and was the star of many like amazing stage shows in Los Angeles and did How I Met Your Mother and all these amazing things. And also that he's an incredible dad, an incredible person. He also is someone that has had an incredible spiritual path as well. And he's just an amazing human, and he's inspired me deeply and greatly in my life. And he's also my soulmate, and I'm so excited to have him here. He's also super hot. So I'm so happy to have him in my office. He's laughing. Welcome my husband, love of my life, soulmate, twin flame, all the things, Jeremy Gabriel, to You Are Not Alone. And we're going to switch the microphone right now so we can both talk. Hi, babe.
Do we have to wait a minute?
No.
No, we just jump right in.
Yeah, totally. Nice. You'll come to learn that this show is very, very, very free flowing, in the moment, and very, honest. So,
like you.
And maybe you should listen to some of the episodes.
I do. Hey, long time listener, first time caller.
Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. And I know like this episode has been like a long time in the making, just in an honest way. Cause it's the way that you and I are, like, it has to feel good. It has to resonate. We both have to be aligned with something, and it just kind of came together, and today's the day. Yeah. So I'm so happy to have you here.
I'm so happy to be here.
I'm also obsessed with having you in my office. It just feels...
I do love being in your office.
Yeah, it's a happy place. It's a great place. And like, I'm usually in here alone, and then you walk in the door. I'm like, oh, this is so fun. I'm so happy you're here. Like, let me show you all the things I have in here, or, what I'm doing here. Let's pull cards, or it just feels so good to have you here. So thank you for coming on.
Of course.
And it's great to be with you. And
any chance I get to hang out with you and talk, I'm all for.
Oh, thank you. I'm wearing a red shirt, but I felt like, what am I going to wear today? And then I'm like, oh, it's the love podcast. I have to wear red. So, but I love you too. And I think, something we were talking about is just like the different things we wanted to hit on in this conversation. And I just want to say at the door that, like, without being weird, like, we have pretty powerful connection, very powerful connection. And all these years later are like deeply, obsessively in love.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say that because, I think that's important. That's like been a through line, that we both have that total commitment that we're meant to be together. And that's gotten us through a lot. Sweet Lord, we have been through it, right?
That's what I said when we got married, was like, this is it. Mm-hmm. It's not going to happen again. This is our one shot at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is our one shot. And that has kept us going. And I think like...
Otherwise, we wouldn't have gotten married.
Totally. But like, not everyone thinks that way.
I agree. I'm saying, but for us, for me, that's why when you would ever question it or ask any questions, I'm like, yeah, but we got married. Like, this was it.
This was it.
Yeah.
Well, I think that like something I was thinking about too, before you came, is like that resolve that you have, like, this is it. We're meant to be together. I mean, that definitely got us through a lot of hard times where it wasn't that I didn't think we were meant to be together or that this wasn't it, but there were times where I'm like, I don't know or see a path through this conflict. And through, we basically like, to backtrack, like, why don't you tell how we met?
So I'll tell how I tell the story, and then you can add in how you feel you need to color it in. For me, is I remember always remember being in my apartment, the studio apartment I had in Koreatown, and sitting in Los Angeles, and sitting there. And I very specifically remember looking out my window, and it was like February or March, and I had been single for a while at that point. And I remember very specifically asking, like, I'm ready to meet my person. And then 6-7 months later, through a very amazing confluence of events, bumped into you at a bar. And it was such an amazing series of events. That's why it was my vows for when we got married, because I was in a play and they switched where we were doing rehearsal that night. And then a friend of mine, Robert C., Bobby Nicaragua, we wanted to go out afterwards, and he wanted to get something to eat and I wanted to get something to drink. And so we randomly ended up at this bar called Birds, because we were on a different part of town, and we walked in there, and I always remember what time it was. It was like 11:23 because the kitchen had closed. And so we went to walk out, and there were like 3 or 4 tables outside of the restaurant before you hit the sidewalk on like a patio. And then I bumped into the last chair before you hit the sidewalk and turned around and say, excuse me. And someone said, Jeremy. And I turned around and it was you. And we ended up talking that night and basically moved in the next day.
Yeah.
And I always think that, if I had hit that sidewalk, if I hadn't bumped into that chair, if I'd hit that sidewalk and walked on, we never would have met. Now, I knew who you were because we had met years before, but we hadn't seen each other in 3 some odd years at that point. But I mean, I specifically asked for you. Mm-hmm. I didn't know it was you, but I specifically asked for my person, and the whole reason you were there, and all these amazing things had to happen to bring us to that place. Mm-hmm. And the fact that, if I don't graze that chair, I hit the sidewalk and we never meet. And that experience is like a perfect microcosm of
our relationship.
Our relationship, and like the universe, and how I think of life, and that we're supposed to drive and not get in the engine and try to be the piston and the gas and all that. You have no idea how it's all going to work out, but it was amazing.
I think that's so cool too, like from your perspective. And what's funny, when I think about you bumping the chair, I didn't notice you walking by, but when you bumped the chair, you turned your head to say, excuse me. And that's when I saw your face.
Yeah.
And we had met, like we said, we met at an acting school years before. I thought he was a great guy, super nice, but it wasn't anything. Neither of us
didn't register for either of us.
No, we were not ready to meet really or have that connect. It wasn't like we saw each other years before and fell in love. Not at all. Not at all. And
it also shows a reason to be polite.
Be polite, people.
Yeah, be polite.
No, but absolutely. And I think what I think about is like literally therein lies the actual law of attraction. And that's what I love. And that's like part of the reason why I like wanted to do this show with you too, because if you set something into the universe and you say something into the universe and you let it go in faith, you then will be met there, right? But if you align with the very thing. So meaning I read for people all the time that say like, I want to meet someone. And then their guides come in and say like, do you really? Like, do you believe that you are worthy of love? Mm-hmm. Do you believe that you have someone? And a lot of times it's like, no, I don't think I'm lovable, or I'm still in love with my ex or whatever. It's not actually, you're not actually aligned with meeting that person.
Yeah.
And I think that's in life. Like I think about, I tell this story, like I think about the fact that I want to do large scale talks, right? Like large scale connection with people. Talks, not readings, talks about spirituality and elevating our consciousness, etc. But like right now, I'm like, I have no idea how I would do that. Yeah. And I'm not ready for that right now. But what I do is I close my eyes and I imagine being backstage and I imagine someone handing me a microphone and I can see my face. I'm like super happy, super ready, super calm, and I'm ready to walk out on stage. Mm-hmm. And I align with that feeling of getting the microphone in my hand and that feeling of readiness and excitement. I align with that feeling, not with the feeling of going, I have no fucking idea how that's going to happen. I'm not ready for that. You're not aligning with it. And I align with the feeling of having that microphone in my hand and feeling ready. I feel good about it. I feel excited about it. I give it to God. I give it to the universe and I let it go. And I show up every single day for it in my own way. Mm-hmm. And like you did the same thing. You were like sitting in your place. You're like, I'm ready to meet my person. You probably felt really excited, really good about it. And then you let it go. And then you said there was a confluence of events, which means the universe, your angels, your guides were aligning with your feeling, your idea.
Yep.
And that's what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. And the biggest thing was I think the hardest thing for us is that I wasn't pushing against it. I really did let it go. I really didn't think about it much actively from that time till then. I think it's the biggest thing. I think a lot of times we think that, or I feel that we have to, be actively driving and pursuing and doing it. I think the bigger thing is just not pushing against it. So often we're talking about why we're not ready or what's missing, and that keeps you farther away from it.
Totally. Like I call it like mind fucking ourselves. Is that appropriate?
Yeah. That's a book title right there.
Classy air. No, but like that's literally what we're doing. We're taking our hopes and dreams and then crushing the shit out of them in our minds. I've done it. I do it all the time.
We all do it.
I do it all the time, actually. Yeah. And then I'm like, oh, wow, there it is. There's that mind screw. And I'm like, okay, how do I go back from that and undo that and feel good about the things I want, not bad?
Yeah.
I feel like I can feel so bad about the things I want.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to get there. And am I the one? And this and that. It's like, how do I feel good about the things, have faith in them, surrender to them, and then move on with my day in a positive way?
Mm-hmm. Big thing, I think, what I've heard and learned in practice is if you're feeling that way about something, is moving on to a different subject, something that feels easier. Because sometimes you're just too tied up. You have too many beliefs or thoughts about that specific thing to solve that at that moment or to feel better. So just think about anything else that feels better.
Yeah.
That helps getting there.
I think the other cool thing too, and like one of the things that I wanted to talk about with you as well is like, you had a very specific goal and dream when we were in Los Angeles. to express yourself as an actor, to be an actor, and really at that time to book things. You want to get on a show, you want to get in movies, and that started to shift and change and become clear that the timing for that wasn't right. It wasn't happening, right? So, I mean, you had lots of success, but it was like, this doesn't feel right in this way anymore, right? You wanted different things. And then, but the thing that I love is like, you let it evolve and change and still feel great about acting, but not let it completely take you down that it didn't happen in that exact way. And you kept it, went other ways. And now like the acting gigs that you've gotten since we've moved is like amazing, even better. So how do you hold on to a dream and let it take its own path without getting depressed and thinking like, oh, wow, that didn't happen. This fucking sucks and it's over. How do you hold on to that? Because I know so many people are dealing with that right now, especially like, say, younger people too. They're like, wow, I had this idea I was going to work in fashion, but now here I am like in real estate. And, you know, it's like, how do you hold on to that in a light-filled way and then let it come back to you like a boomerang? Like, how did you keep it?
Well, I think it goes to, well, the challenge originally was what you said before, was that I didn't really believe it, right? Like I wanted it, but I wasn't really telling the story that I could have it or really believe that I was worthy of it or talented enough or anything like that. So the main thing I had to do was figure myself out before even being able to address that. Now we moved across country to like, for me to start that process. I've learned since, probably didn't have to do that, but at the time where I was, what I was learning, I did, right? Because how I was going about it just wasn't working. I needed a whole new change of scenery. And so when we moved, I mean, we completely shifted gears. I was going to go to law school and help start a business and all these other things. Completely took my focus off acting and being successful as an actor and changed it to my focus being on really just improving myself, you know, and feeling better about myself. You can't really, I don't feel like to have a full, successful, well-rounded life, it's really hard if you feel bad about yourself. You're going to have areas of your life that you're successful. You could be really successful in business, or your career, or other areas of your life, but to have a full, well-rounded life, it's really hard to do that if you don't feel great about yourself. And so when we moved back here, I mean, I didn't do anything with acting for 3 to 5 years and just focused on kind of rebuilding myself and doing things that were interesting, fulfilling to me. And once that all started to click, then I was like, oh, I'd like to go try that again. And my energy about it was completely different. It wasn't something I was trying to prove anything or validate myself or anything like that. It was just wanted to do it because it was fun. I legitimately missed doing it.
Yeah, you made it fun.
Yeah.
You made it feel good.
Yeah.
That's literally what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Like you made it feel really good. I also think what's really interesting about you, like taking it back a little bit, like part of that shift in transition, I love that you look to other people that are strong in the areas that maybe you want to work on and you kind of delve in. So like at that time, you found Tony Robbins. I mean,
Oh, totally. For years, I listened to him.
Yeah. I mean, I watched Tony Robbins' documentary, I'm Not Your Guru. I thought it was amazing.
Yeah, it was.
And like at the time, like you didn't force Tony Robbins on me.
Yeah.
We are on 2 totally different paths. And I think sometimes people, like I get a lot of people asking me, I'm super spiritual. I'm going through a spiritual awakening. How do I make my husband do it too? How do I make my wife, girlfriend, brother, sister, whatever?
Yeah, you can't.
How do I make them do it too? And you can't.
No, you just have to be an example.
You have to be an example and like hold space for that person. So yeah, so Tony Robbins was really big for you at that time.
I would say though, it was big for me because of our relationship. Like our relationship was the thing that really clarified for me the gap that I had in my life and what I wanted to close. I was feeling it before, but it wasn't quite as crystallized until we met. And I was like, my life is not where I want it to be. And I'm not who I want to be in a relationship and for this person. Because I knew already you were we were delivered to each other. I knew this was it. I had to figure out a way to step up to that. And that was, I mean, truly one of those stories of like, I don't know if infomercials were still around, but it was definitely from seeing it on TV.
Yeah, it was an infomercial.
Yeah. And then like ordering the CDs and getting into that. And I mean, I listened to him for years, even when we moved back here. He had a whole business mastery set that I was listening to that it still is foundational in things that I do in my life and how to communicate with people and yourself and how to just solve problems and really just build yourself up. It was amazing. It was incredible. I listened to those CDs over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of did this. He did like the first versions of this, where he was talking with like Wayne Dyer and Deepak Chopra and all these Joel Gray. You know, it was before podcasts, but he had these CDs where he was interviewing them and doing exactly this type of thing.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
Right. Hearing people's process and hearing people's path on different levels is inspiring.
Yeah.
It's really inspiring because it doesn't mean you're on that exact path, like I was saying in the opener, but like hearing other people's stories and how they changed and grew, like that's so awesome.
Yeah. Actually, I was going to say that when you mentioned that about stories, that it made me think that, I mean, that's how they say that's the thing that separated Homo sapiens from the various other Homo species that were around and Neanderthals before, was that we had the ability to share story, to tell stories, and to give concepts that weren't literally right in front of us. And I think that's part of when we talk about like the universe and evolution and this general consciousness. I think my feeling has always been that that's part of this whole universe evolving, you know, and that we relate and we grow with each other. We're so much stronger together. We're so much stronger together. Totally.
Do you think some of that, like what separates us as humans is like we have an awareness of the other? So like we have some kind of concept of God, like there's something else happening here. Mm-hmm. We're watching the rain come and storms and all these amazing things, like just thinking of early humans.
Yeah.
It's like there's something else bigger than us, you know, and I think that acknowledgement too, like I look around like at my life and so many, and this is not a judgmental thing. I just want to tell this story, but so many people I know are so depressed and having mental issues and taking lots of psychiatric drugs to help them. No judgment, guys, but just giving examples.
It's like
people are trying to feel better.
Yeah.
And I had someone ask me like, why aren't you depressed? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, why aren't you depressed? Like you've been around so much depression. Let's just put it at that. And it's like, I know 100% the only reason is God, because I consistently go back to God consistently. And like that can be on different levels. And I think that's also happened in our relationship. And something I want to talk about is like so much about our relationship was foundational in God. So like, I know, you know, for you, Jeremy, you grew up in spirituality. Mm-hmm. I mean, Jeremy's parents met at an ashram, right?
Yeah.
Which, can you explain what that is? Because a lot of
I don't really. It's not like I was born or raised there, so I don't really know.
Oh, but they met there, and you went to different events.
Yeah. So, but what they did was, you know, they met at they lived in a place where there were all people following a similar teacher whose name was Maraji, and they lived and worked together.
Like a commune.
Yeah.
I mean, it was in the 70s.
It was in the 70s, yeah.
In the 70s, it was like a commune.
Yeah. And then it evolved from there where, you know, they went, you'd go to specific events and listen to them talk. And they did Holi, which, you know, is a very huge tradition in India. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I knew of spirituality and meditation from the time I was a little kid. So that was always something that was around and talked about, and something that seemed to help people. And when I was at those events and just heard him speak, and the energy you would feel in those places felt really good. You know, I think there's something when you have a group of people that are focused together on energy, the universe, God, whatever word you feel comfortable calling it, you know, but having people focus that way felt really good. I was like, well, that's nice. And I felt that as I got older and I was having challenges, I was like, I think this meditation thing might be something that can help me navigate that. And my meditation process has evolved in the 20 some odd years since, you know, I learned how to meditate the way they teach it. And it's huge. I mean, it's a huge part of my life, and something that I think goes to actually what you were just saying, which is about going back to that eternal source, right? That universal energy source that is available to us all and that we came from, but that we do a really good job at pinching ourselves off from.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It's interesting too, because something that comes up a lot here is like this idea of self-care and energetic management. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I have never, ever experienced someone more committed to their daily routine than you.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. No matter what is going on between us in our life, it's like you are up, you are exercising, you are meditating, you are stretching. I mean, when we first started dating, like we'd be like, okay, let's like wake up late and go to brunch and hang out and whatever. And you're like, yeah, that sounds great. I'm like, okay, let's go. And you're like, oh, but I'm going to the gym first.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? You're like, no, I'm going to the gym. I'll see you in an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Bye. Like you are so devoted to that mind, body, spirit connection.
Mm-hmm.
It's super inspiring. And you are exercising, you are meditating. And at this point, you've moved on, obviously, from Tony Robbins. I mean, I know you still like him and all these things, but now you really moved on more to Abraham Hicks.
Yeah.
Which
actually came from a Tony Robbins coach.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Abraham Hicks. So that has been super inspiring for you right now. Yeah. But I know you listen to those. Mm-hmm. You're meditating, you're doing yoga, you're running and stretching. And this man does not take a day off, y'all. It is like daily routine committed.
It's funny though. My thought about it has evolved. It's one of those things where you hear, especially in our culture right now, a lot about like the hustle and the grind. And it sounds like this really effortful, hard thing. And I think for a lot of people, and it's also equated to success, right? So if you're not hustling or grinding, that's why you're not successful. And I think it's hard for a lot of people to hear because it's like, well, I'm working really hard. I'm doing everything I can. And you're telling me I'm still not doing enough and I'm still not successful. That's really hard to hear. And I've felt it seems to me that that's not true, right? What's true is that for a lot of people that we see working really hard, it's not effortful, that they're actually refilling themselves while they're doing that. I always think of like Kobe Bryant, you hear all like his work ethic or, anyone who's doing what it is that they're passionate and they love about, they might be up at 4 a.m. and working, but they're not, it's just different. It's not that you aren't working hard. It's that they're actually found some way to fulfill themselves and get that energy while they're doing that thing that they're driven to do. And I've realized that with myself, with exercise and meditation, that it's not so much that I'm trying to get a result. I just actually enjoy doing it. It's fulfilling. Right. I love going for runs with our dog. I love finding new ways to move my body and to learn. It's all about, really it all comes back to like evolving and growing. Mm-hmm. I just feel like it's always a way to evolve and grow. So it doesn't feel like it's hard or that it's work.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you have an amazing, amazing daily practice and devotion to mind, body, and spirit. So devotion to your body, you're expanding your mind and you're connecting spiritually.
Yeah.
I should note that I don't exercise.
That's not true. We ebb and flow with it.
Ebb and flow. But we got deep. When we first started dating, we were doing yoga 6-7 days a week together. It was an amazing time.
Yeah, that was awesome. At Liberation Yoga
in Los Angeles. Whoop, whoop. But yeah, we were doing yoga 6 or 7 days a week. It was amazing. Yeah. It was, but we had no kids, but it was incredible. Yeah. That was a very powerful and spiritual time as well in our connection. So, so the thing also, and kind of taking it back that people have asked me a lot about is like, what does your husband think about you being a medium? Mm-hmm. And what was that like? Because when we first met, while my path was based in spirituality and had been my whole life, I was not like, hi, I'm Erika. I'm a medium. I talk to and see dead people and talk to spirit and God.
Yeah.
It wasn't that. It was something, and literally it was on the car ride home from our wedding weekend.
When we landed in LA that it really started.
From our wedding. So we got married in Philadelphia. That's where we live now. And left Philadelphia to go back to our apartment in Los Angeles, landed in LA and was
our third, again, talking about like things lining up and the universe providing for you. That was our third ride option that picked us up.
Yeah. A friend picked us up. That was like our third option for rides. We took her up on it. And she had mentioned that one of her friends was embracing their mediumship. And I was like, oh, yep. I need to talk to them.
Yeah.
So this has been, you guys know, and I've talked about it here, I started noticing I was a medium when I was 7 years old. I didn't know what it meant. Mm-hmm. I didn't know that I was a medium, but that's when I started noticing things. So this was like a lifelong spiritual path and journey. So when I heard that, it was like something started clicking big time. And then I think I talked to her maybe 4 or 5 days later, and she was like, oh, right. You're a medium, right? Yeah. And I was like, what the hell? But I was like, that makes complete sense. Mm-hmm. all of the pieces of my life are just put into place. I totally understand everything that's ever happened to me now. I get it.
Yeah.
I get why I get drunk and tell people amazing things about their lives. Because in the beginning days, it would be when I was like super just not thinking about things. I'd be like having drinks in a bar and be like, hey, by the way, it would just come out the next day. I'd be like, that was super weird. That was weird. Or like I'd be doing Reiki on someone and hear their grandma talk or hear messages for them. So that was part of how it started. But I mean, I look at journals from when I was like 12 and I'm like talking to God and plugging into God. And it was always part of it. That journey has been, I mean, there's so many details to my path and journey. But we landed and I was like, surprise, I'm a medium and I talk to dead people, literally right after we got married.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you feel? Like, what did you think?
It was a completely natural step, which I understand might sound odd considering what we're talking about. I think it's because of where I came from and that I had a spiritual, non-religious, non-dogmatic upbringing and belief system still at that time. And that the time that we met before we got married, I mean, spirituality was always something we talked about and was always not at the center, involved in our lives. We went to Agape a few times together, and we were, again, doing yoga, which its true intention is to be a spiritual practice and a meditation.
Which at that place it was.
Yeah, it definitely was. It wasn't just like camp yoga.
Exercise yoga.
No judgment on the boot camp yoga, but yes. No. There's different things for different people.
No, totally.
Yeah.
No judgment on that. But why is it called yoga?
Everything has to be allowed to evolve, though.
Yeah, that's true. I get that. But I do.
Yes, it's very, but again, and sometimes backwards. I mean, I like yin yoga now, which is like what I understand, the original version of it, where you're holding these poses for a really long time. It's very passive, but it's very deep. And it's very restorative. Anyway, but it's allowed to evolve, is what I think. But yeah, so when it happened, I think because spirituality had been a part of our lives, and that, when you then went to massage, right? And then to Reiki, again, those modalities can have a spiritual, energetic aspect to them. And at each step, your natural ability started to come out clearer and clearer. So that when we got to, oh, you're a medium, it was like, oh, that makes, like you said, this all makes sense.
Absolutely. It did make sense. And when I look over like every single thing I've ever done, like, I get it now.
Yeah.
I get why I made those choices. I get everything that spirit was leading me to. I get my, searching, my connection to God, my connection to spirit. Like, it all really made sense. Now, this was like 14 years ago, but going up on 14 years.
Yeah. It was 2008.
Right. But I mean.
Yeah, it would have been the first week of September because we got married August 30th.
Yeah. So. And I mean, it all kind of clicks in and makes sense. And when I realized I was a medium, it wasn't like, what the hell? It was like a bow that was already there that got tightened.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think, but for me, my impression of it was, I think, again, going to like why we were and are perfect for each other is because it wasn't
shocking. Do you think that we were drawn to each other because we were both so deeply spiritual? Do you think that's
we didn't know that
right when we first saw each other?
But that's the thing, and that's what we keep going back to. If you try to plan every little bit, if we think about the most amazing things in our lives, you really had usually very little to do with it. So many things had to happen for it to work out. Yeah, so it was spiritual. God did bring us together. I didn't know it, but yes, that was definitely there. Yeah, we met at that restaurant and then went home together and never left each other's side. Yeah, literally. Yeah, that studio sat vacant for your studio another 5 months. Yeah, your studio was just empty. Yeah. That's so funny. I love Priya, my best friend Priya. She's like, I'll never forget when you called me, like you had like met Jeremy, and then like a week later we were like talking and you called me and you were like, Priya, he never left. She's like, wait, what? The guy from the restaurant? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, he never left. He's reorganizing my kitchen cabinets. Scorpio.
Oh my God. I'm like, he's literally,
Cabinets.
he's still here and he's reorganizing my kitchen cabinets, and she just remembers that so well.
That's funny.
We were just talking about Scorpios and how Scorpios are super neat and tidy and everything looks nice. And then you open a drawer and it's like chaos, mayhem. That's like so Scorpio. Yeah. And that's very true for me.
That's true. I remember too, because we met August 23rd and then Labor Day weekends, the following weekend or whatever it was, a week and a half later. And I remember calling our friends, Kevin and Kim, who you hadn't met at that point.
No, who are now our best
and telling
couple
them,
friends with Priya and Raj.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we were telling them, be like, oh, I met the person. I'm going to tell her I love her. I told you I love you like a week and a half later.
I know.
It's crazy.
I'm like, shit, this guy really likes me.
Yeah. Because you had a date. You had a date planned.
I had a date with another guy. He was a director.
Yeah.
And we had only been dating for like a week.
Yeah.
Well, also, too, I think I'd been so...
You didn't do anything wrong.
No.
Well, you had already had it planned.
Yeah. I think I had been so disappointed in the past, And so I was like, I mean, I'm in love with this person. I want to be with him forever. But like, he could be like, oh, I booked a show and like, I'm moving. Bye. Like, this was so fun. Like, actors are super passionate and get very into things. Like, so I didn't want to be presumptuous in any way that like we were exclusive. So I remember going to you and I was like, hey, like, by the way, like I have a date with like a really hot director. And I'm like, I'm not trying to like entrap you that like we're exclusive, but like, is it cool if I go on the date? And he looked me dead in the eye and he was like, oh, I would never, ever, ever speak to you again if you went on that date. And I was like, oh, damn, this is serious. I'm like, we're in deep. And then he was like, yeah, I love you later, a couple days later. And I was like, I love you too. Let's move in together. Woo! Let's live together forever and ever and have children together.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I wanted to also talk about is like, we have definitely had highs and lows and experienced super low times that were probably like the most painful times in my life.
Big learning experiences.
Other than, and there's no cheating involved. I just like to say that because I think
no.
I think people fill in the blanks when you say like, oh, my marriage had highs and lows or like we went through really hard times. I know for me personally, I automatically go to there was another person involved and there really, really wasn't.
No.
Yeah, that is one thing about us. We're very devoted to each other. It wasn't about that. It was just very, very horrible, intense growing pains that were almost catastrophic. And we went through really, really challenging times. But I want to say this. This is a side note story that I want to talk about. As a medium and as a spiritual seeker, there is this thing called a dark night. And someone wrote about it, someone very famous, it's like 100-year-old book or something about like, it's called like The Dark Night or something. Dark Night of the Soul. I don't know who wrote it and I never read it. So this is a cool story, bro. Yeah, cool story, bro. There's a book about it that I never read and I don't know who wrote it. But anyway, all spiritual seekers and spiritual helpers have gone through what they call a dark night, where you're basically, it's like that rock bottom vibration, not with drugs and alcohol, but like rock bottom in your spiritual life. And as I opened as a medium, I mean, Jeremy can tell you, we had trouble. Let's start with this. We had trouble sleeping when I opened as a medium because there were people walking around.
Yes, I forgot about that.
Yeah, tell about that. And then I want to talk about dark night.
I don't remember that. I just remember it being very active. Yeah. I've never had challenges sleeping. But yeah, when you first started doing this, that's right. Because we were still at 812. Mm-hmm. And I just remember being very active. Energetically, like, oh, okay, this is new. I don't remember anything specific now. It's been so long, but I do remember that being a thing. I
remember you saying to me, like, I can't sleep. It's too busy in here. I feel like it's a train station. Yeah. It's so active in here at night. I don't know. And I just remember being like, I'm sorry, I can't sleep either. I don't know what to do because I was an emerging medium. I was still learning what's a ghost, what's an angel, what's a guide, what's a loved one who crossed over. I had no idea. I was just open. It's like I had a light on in the spirit world. So that was very intense.
They just made me think of, remember that possum that was outside of the window that one night?
Oh my God.
Had a light on. It was just like looking through the window.
Oh my God.
Just that thin little screen between us and the possum.
Yes. And I was like, ah, There's an opossum. That wasn't a spiritual experience, by the way. We're just reminiscing here. But yeah, so that was kind of wild. And as I opened as a medium, like I said, I was just open.
Mm-hmm.
And I started working as a medium, but still didn't know how to manage boundaries and things like that. And I basically got off the phone with someone. I helped them energetically clear their house of a negative energy. So I used to do a lot of house clearings. I don't do them anymore. I teach people how to clear their own houses. But I remember it was like lights out for me. Like I was in darkness. I took a deep dive and an ocean dive into the darkest depths of fear that I can explain. And I felt like it was almost like spirit was like, okay, you want to be a medium. You can connect with the light because the light is the most powerful thing on the planet, but you should be aware of what else there is so that if you ever feel darkness or evil again, you're not afraid. You're like, I've been there. I've been to hell. I know what it's like. And I know how to manage my energy in dark places in a way that I'm protected. But at the time, I had no idea what that meant. And I was in the deepest, darkest depths of fear and darkness. And it was a horrific feeling. I almost feel like it was like when Harry Potter gets sucked by the Dementors. It's like, that's what it felt like. It was the most horrific feeling in the world. And I remember waking up one of the mornings and you were like, you know what, babe, let's just go for a walk. Let's go outside. Let's go for a walk. Let's get out. And we're walking and like, you basically told me it was a sunny day, but to me, it was pitch black.
Mm-hmm.
And even walking around and connecting and feeling people's energy was horrifying. I'm like, I have to go back. I have to go home. I got to go home. And then I remember sitting there on the couch and you were like, okay, tell me what you're feeling. And I was like, I feel like I've been thrown in a cold, dark well, like at the bottom of a disgusting, horrifying, dark well. And I can't see and it's cold and it's scary and there's mean people down there. And you were like, okay. And then you were like, I'm with you. I'm in the well with you. And like, I feel you in the well and I'm with you. And then you were like, can you just focus on my eyes in the well? And I saw your eyes in the well.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I see them and they were bright and they were light filled. And I feel like I rode out on the lightness of your soul out of the well. And then I was okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you basically went to hell for me and helped me get out on the bright lightness of your soul. And the reason why I told that is because we were talking about what got us through the darkest times in our marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes in those times when I was just like, I can't stand it. This is horrible.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is ever going to be right. And like, fuck him, you know, like that type of mentality. And my guides would always come in and be like, never forget he went to hell for you. And you rode out on the lightness of his heart. He went to hell for you and he helped get you out of the dark night of your soul. And I would be like, God damn it. Fuck, you're right. There's something bigger here. So I know for me, that's how part of the way that I saw it. I felt like I was able to see us through is like the bigger picture and knowing that God got us back together. God brought us together and that God wants us to be together. So that was like that higher picture.
Yeah.
So that helped me. And also the fact that you're super hot. I'm serious. Like in our darkest times, I was like, God damn it, you're lucky you're pretty. And that's a funny way of putting it, but I think our chemistry
and our part of our relationship,
totally
our physical life.
Totally. I think that's a huge part, you know, that got us through. So back to my question, what do you think got us through? That was a long roundabout way, but it's important.
What do I think got us through? I think that for me is that we both kept evolving. And I think it also a lot of, as I've come to learn for myself, is that usually the solution to your problem was upstream of the problem happening. And so that when we met and everything that we'd experienced together I was fully committed. There was never an option. There was never a plan B. It was like, we'll figure this out. I'm not sure why this is this way now. But that I'm going to do whatever I have to do to figure out my part. And I've come to realize since, you know, it's just that we made such a big jump in our lives at that time that we were both just freaking out in our own ways, and we needed the other person to be calm, and neither of us could be at the time.
Totally.
And what I've come to learn for myself since then, and why I feel like the intensity or the dramatic swings of our life has calmed to a good place, is that like there's nothing that serious going on. You know, all these stories I would tell about, like, oh, if we do this and this means this, and like they're not real. They're real because I was making them, and all they were doing was heightening the intensity of the moment. I was like, if I could just find a way to be calm, you know, and listen and bring that universal calm, you know, that universal love. And I'm not saying at all that I do this to this day. I mean, there's still moments where we don't jive, but like,
oh my God. Yeah. Oh my God. Oh,
really?
Oh,
that much. But I think that's what it was, you know, was that there was never a plan B, and we're constantly evolving. We're constantly growing. We're constantly learning new things. I mean, that's one of the whole points of why we're here. So that's what it was. I don't think there's any one particular thing. I didn't know what I was doing at that time. We had just completely turned our whole lives upside down, and I'm glad we did, you know, and I'm glad that we learned all the things we've learned, you know, but no, of course it's not, but nothing's a straight line. You know, I mean, that's one of the things I've learned about learning, is that we expect it for some reason, even though it's never like this, just kind of like constantly keep going up. And usually after you learn something new, there's a pretty steep step back where it gets really, where you start feeling clumsy and you don't know what you're doing. And usually what we do is we freak out. We usually run away.
Yes.
We go backwards. We didn't. We found a way through, and so happy we did.
And here,
but there's no other choice. And there was no other option. We were going to figure it out.
Yeah, we have each other's back. It's so interesting too, like hearing you talk, and then also thinking about like everything we've been through. I think about when I had my grand mal seizure, that like I literally had that seizure in your arms.
Yeah.
So like in the deepest, darkest times of my life, it has been in your arms because I felt like you have come in and you've been the greatest support, you know, and I feel safe expanding, you know, with you and really in your arms. And I hope that you feel like some of those times when we had really hard times were some of your dark nights in some ways, and that you feel that I was there for you at that time, even though I was partially a psycho, but you know.
No, but we both were. I mean, and that's the thing. You most definitely, there might not be like that dramatic moment that you've had. Dramatic's the wrong word.
Yeah, it was a long, dark night.
That really visceral moment. But like when you were saying dark night, everyone has those.
Yeah.
Like everyone's felt really low and down, you know, and because we all are, whether whether we declare it or not, we are all energetic spiritual seekers, right? We're on this earth having this experience, figuring out how to align this energy from the source that we come to and where we're going, and we're here for a little period of time. So we're all trying to figure that out, and we all have, it actually goes to that whole learning method, right? You're going to have these steps forward, and then you have these big steps back. We're all just trying to figure out how to feel better. It's just what I have learned for myself is the most that we can just have faith and believe, or know. Even better is knowing, right? There's faith and belief, and there's knowing. If we know that we're going to get where we want to go, it'll just go that much easier. There's no lack. There's no scarcity. Everything we want's here.
So you're connecting so much right now with Abraham Hicks. Is there someone else that's kind of calling you now?
You mean besides you?
Oh my God.
You are not.
No, you can't sing that on this show.
That's right.
You can't sing that on this show. Never. I'm not a huge Michael Jackson fan, so when people sing that.
I know.
But I love that when I went on Jenny McCarthy's show, that Donnie Wahlberg was there with her, and he sang that song because they were asking me about the podcast. And Donnie Wahlberg was like, you and I was like, no. I didn't say that. I was like, oh my God, a new kid on the block is singing to me. But what is calling you now, like to explore before we go?
For me, I'm still listening mainly to Abraham Hicks. Not for any reason. I've listened to other people, just nothing has been as crystal clear to me as that. It seems like you're hearing it because of how Esther Hicks, channels and communicates. It's the closest I've heard just hearing from source, right? From the universe right there. It's so clear. And it's always the same thing, right? It's always up to you and what you're focusing on. And it's especially helpful to me because it gave a framework to me of, we've talked about this before, of life, right? For how they talk about it, there's three main goals, right? For life, there's freedom, growth, and joy. And those are the main three goals that we have. And then there's this emotional ladder or hierarchy, with the bottom being, you know, powerless and hopeless, and all the way up to belief, knowing, joy, freedom, happiness, all that at the very top. It just gave a framework. And I feel like so often we're given this life and we don't have a manual of how to do it. And we're all trying to figure out what the rules are and what the game is. And that gave a structure for me that really resonated. And that, unfortunately, me before and a lot of people, it seems, bounce between that fear and anger, right? And and then fall back. Which again, kind of goes through that whole learning structure, and don't break through the anger to, it's not even just positive, right? Just going from anger to, you know, maybe trepidatious, you know, and then, you know, less fearful. Maybe it's just a constant step towards feeling better all the way up there. So, I mean, to me, that's what's resonated, and I haven't found anything else, but not saying I won't. I'm always listening to other people and other things, but that's just been the clearest truth for me. And I haven't figured it out yet. You know, I feel like once I kind of get that, maybe I'll
you move on
to something else.
It's interesting because, like, I think about like Reverend Michael Beckwith, and that's like the number one teacher for me.
Oh yeah,
you know,
has been the whole time we've
the entire time.
Yeah,
like 20 years. I mean,
they were on the same thing.
Yeah,
on The Secret together.
Yeah, I mean, I started with Michael Beckwith. I think I was 22.
Yeah.
22 years old. So, and I always tell people that Jesus led me to Michael Beckwith. And then people, oh my God, please do a podcast on Jesus. And I'm like, it's not ready. It's not ready. Yeah. It's not ready. But anyway, you guys know I'm non-religious, but have a relationship with different teachers and healers. But what's interesting is, like, I've never forced Michael on you.
Yeah.
And you've never forced Abraham Hicks on me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we honor and respect each other's, you know, what's inspiring to us, you know?
Yeah. And that's why it's great. There's so many different teachers out there like you know, because we're all at different places on our path.
Correct.
There's someone for everyone. And the more people that can talk and listen, and then you'll evolve and you'll find that next person to take you to the next part of your journey.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I really, really like talking to you.
You too. I was so happy to be able to come do this today. I was like, ooh, another chance to talk with you.
Oh, I can't thank you enough.
Like, really. Too, I mean, I think that's the big thing for us when you talk about like our relationship, and one of the things that have gotten us through. Because like when I think back on the challenging times we've had, I was looking at pictures, you know, like your iPhone has those memories come up. Obviously, you take pictures of the high moments. I'm not saying that, you know, there weren't challenging times, but like we still did so much, even in challenging periods. And I still remember us. Like if you were to ask me memories of those times, it would still be about laughter, right? We just laugh so much.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the biggest things. And we still like going out together. And that's something that's always been there.
Yeah. That chemistry. That's what I say. Like I made a joke of it, but that chemistry, that desire to be together, that spark. And like sometimes when I do readings, it's like you can hear that any of that is gone, you know, and that's what happens in relationships.
And that was one of the challenges for us when we moved here.
What?
Well, because we were together constantly
in LA.
And then we came here, we weren't together anymore. That really was one of the challenges.
Right.
You know, and I think one of the reasons why, you know, one of the good things that came out of COVID for us was me working remote and us getting to be together.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too, because we like that. And then, but also that's a lot, my mental thing goes off as well, because I'm just like, where are you? I need you. I'm very needy. I'm very needy. I mean, I have
You're
a lot.
not, but yes.
I have a lot of flaws, but I'm not afraid of them. You know, like I'll admit it.
You don't have a lot of flaws. That's not true.
I loved having you here. I'm so excited.
Are we done? Are you kicking me out?
Yeah, it's over. Get out of here. Goodbye. Leave me alone. Leave me into my spiritual space. Goodbye. No, we are done. And is there anything else you feel like that you wanted to say?
No.
Okay.
Love you.
I love you too. I'm really, really glad you came on, and I appreciate you taking the time and being here and being so open, you know, being so open about everything. It really meant a lot. And I'm excited that I finally booked you.
I didn't know it was that hard, but okay.
Oh
Yeah,
my God. Yes. Yes. You're such a committed person, but you were very non-committal about the show.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like I said yes a while ago.
No,
Just
no,
your booking agent never got back to me. Or
no,
something.
no, no.
Crazy. You want to be on the show? I was like, yeah. And then crickets.
Well, you're on now, baby.
I know.
And I think it went really well. Yeah. Yeah. He's nodding. Yes. Oh my God.
I loved it.
Well, thank you again to Jeremy Gabriel. I know he's a hot actor, so it was hard to book him. And thank you guys for listening. I really hope that there was something in here that inspired you either in your life or your transformation or your thought process or, elevating consciousness in whatever way you needed. And that's the point of this whole podcast, is that there's something here that serves you and that brings you, new thought or elevated thought or different kinds of thought, or even just validates the things you're thinking and feeling. I get a lot of people that write me that feel really, quote, weird and feel like they're the only one, or feel like they're on a spiritual path and no one around them gets it, or they're scared to tell their, family about it. So I hope you feel that this is a safe space and a space where you can go and explore your spirituality in a way that feels really, really good. I love being with you guys. I love the community that's created here. I hope that you guys will follow me at Spiritual Medium Erika on Instagram. I do a lot of fun things on there. Please leave me a comment on Apple Podcasts or rate the show if you want. As you know, we're going to have a brand new podcast every single Thursday. And if you take nothing else away from today, truly know that you are not alone. God is with you. The universe is conspiring in your favor. Your angels, your guides, your loved ones in spirit, your ancestors. There is so much being done on your behalf. So being clear about where you want to go, it makes it a lot easier for your team in spirit to work with you. So know they're there. Know you're not alone. God is with you, and certainly so am I. I love you guys. God bless you. And thanks so much for tuning in.